Hello and welcome, and sorry for the delay. I had some issues, but yeah. I have some interesting things I came up with. Like, do you hear me? I'm not sure if you can hear me. Okay, so I think now you should hear me. Okay, good. We have this. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I am live. I had it was just until the last second, trying to get a bit more prepared for today. But that being said, there is a bit we can talk about today. Let me quickly come up with a new workspace for us, because we want to put some work in today. Let me have a quick look if I can bring up our. Yeah, that's what we are. Okay. Let's just simply go ahead. So I have different topics for today. Today is the 17th. Okay. Let's say 24, 10, 17. AI plus swarms. Yeah, I was able to actually get some mileage on the swarms library, and I was fighting more with getting Cursor, like my IDE for programming, to actually understand what swarms are, than actually having any issues with the library itself. So it is experimental, but it kind of works pretty well. So let's quickly get up with the topics. So first of all, my first experience with OpenAI swarms. We will also talk what swarms are and what's the whole buzz about, and why I think this is actually a really good library, which we will hear about more in the upcoming weeks and maybe month. And I really hope that we get to production state quickly, because this is really cool. Then current state and demo. I'd love to show you what I've done and some conclusions and rework last week's concept. So last week we talked about this concept here, where we tried to figure out basically how to get my own personal voice assistant. which is we said we want to have web interface with a voice input. We want to show results. We want to have web-based research, and we want to have task management. And it all has to be somehow contained in the database. V2 would be like everything we want plus like operating access to an operating system, and V2 would be like creating its own code. We won't talk about V2 and V3 too much today, maybe an outlook in the end. But first of all, what is this whole swarms thing about? Swarms. Let me quickly bring up the... zoom in a bit. Okay, I hope you all can read it. So, Swarm, experimental educational. As the as the title says, it is not a production-ready library. So everything we do today is more talking about agentic frameworks, agentic behavior, agency as a whole, as a concept with AI solutions. And I try to bring this whole concept closer to you because it's, at least from my point of view, a little bit abstract, and you really need to have some shifts, some paradigm shifts. Also, I think we will do today's stream like for an hour, 1.5, so it won't be a full 2 hours like last week. But yeah, that's the current state. So let's dive in. We have the following. Swarms, agents. Let's start with some definition. Let me quickly copy this. What are agents? Let's say AI agents. So AI agents are basically AI calls with like AI procedures with function calling. What does function calling mean? It means the AI has tools it can use and decides itself which tool to use and when to use it. So basically we are now working with AI agents which have agency. Like, can say basically agents result in agency. This means, like, if you think about all the RAG systems out there, all the, like, you can read your document and you can you can read your document and you can basically let it summarize stuff, and there's a whole lot of things I can say about this. But in general, you have like, this is the document or the context, this is the prompt, like please create an output based on what you have there. As we like told often, like AI is stateless in its all being, so everything you want to have it to consider, it has to have it either like seen in the training data or have in the context. If we now have, like, I think the simplest and often used example is an AI who checks the weather. And for checking the weather, the AI might be inclined to check some API. Now, what you can do, of course, is like you can call an API and then hand over the context and then do the classical prompting. But what you would rather do is create an AI agent that has a function, get weather, which means it then goes ahead and calls the function, gets the output, and with the output then generates the answer. So it basically makes on itself 2 turns before it gets back with an answer to the user. So that's agentic behavior, that's agency. I think Copilot also introduced something called agents right now, and on some level it has agency to check your current SharePoint and then search for a specific document that it seems fit to the current request. And that is agentic behavior, and you can call this agent, but it's fairly limited in the functions it can use. I think you can extend it with custom functions and stuff, so you can get it like to some agentic behavior. But it's a really simple, low-level entry agent, which I think it's a bit on purpose because it still needs to be handled. Like you still need to be able to handle it if you're like a non-technical user. Okay, so back to our what are AI agents? So that's like I think AI procedures with function calling. I think that's mostly it. Like let's keep it simple. Like because it having a set of functions which it can decide which one to call or which ones to call. It can also call several at a time. It already gives it some agency, some level of decision making. It can do itself without our input, right? So that's agents. What Swarms now tries to solve is let's actually do this here, like this. Okay, so looks a bit better. So now, what are swarms? Let's keep the AI in here. So, like swarms are not a specific thing. They're just like, they call it swarms. There's what they actually mean with swarms is some agentic framework where you have different agents working together, working with each other. You might have heard from Crew AI, maybe, which is a framework for exactly that. Microsoft has AutoGen, which is also some kind of multi-agent framework. Multi-agent framework, that's what we need, yeah. So swarms, what are swarms? Multi-agent frameworks. So they combine basically different AI agents for them to work together. And that's like the swarm stuff, like they work together on a given task. So that's what they mean with swarm. It's like it's just another fancy multi-agent framework way of saying multi-agent framework. What we can do with it, we will be there in a minute. Let's talk about swarms first of all and why this is, at least in my opinion, and I've already talked to some other people from in the space, is actually a really, really good and healthy thing. So swarms is more or less just an abstraction layer, which makes it like really easy to code this stuff. So for all of you out there that are not into coding and building their own systems, there will be abstractions really soon. I'll promise you that. That do similar things. There are already some of them out there where you can build agentic frameworks, but as with all low-code solutions, like it of course has limits, and at times it's kind of finicky. So I myself try it again and again, but I always avoid, like, if let me say it like this: low-code tools are really, really cool, and there are really, really good tools out there to build simple workflows or even complex workflows. But the management and also the maintenance of that has some downsides to it, and also version control, stuff like that. Having the option to code, I just like would love to emphasize like code. There are a lot of really cool frameworks. I used a lot of LangChain in my time now. I now will in the future use more of the Swarm approach because it needs some changed thinking. So what Swarm does, let's quickly go over it. So you create an agent. This agent has instructions, and this agent has functions. That's mostly it. So agent A fulfills its own instruction, and if it sees fit, it transfers to agent B so that agent B can do its instruction. They had some examples for that. For one example I really like was the airline, I guess. Yeah. So the airline, quickly close this. The airline was basically, do they have an image here? No. So the airline demo was meant to help customer service for flight modification. So they always start with something they call a triage agent. So let's maybe try to write this down. General concepts. So, let's say we have a user. This user has some request. Let me quickly go down. Yes. Okay, we have a user. The user has a request, and this request now needs someone or something to work through it. So we have a system where we have different agents. In this case, we have flight modification, and we have what was the other one? Close this quickly. Flight cancellation. Okay. Flight cancellation. So now the request can either have modification or cancellation. We don't know that beforehand. So because and that's the beauty of it. Like, we don't have to. How they solve it is they have triage agent. That's how they call it. Like, if you also look at there, like, they have a triage assistant, and it goes ahead and transfers the request to the loss. It transfers the request to the agent that it's necessary. Well, I had it wrong. Flight change and cancel are functions. Sorry. It's baggage. Lost baggage. Yeah. So, flight modification. Let's make it a bit bigger. Lost baggage. So, and flight modification in and of itself has two functions. modify and cancel. Okay, so let's make the functions. Yeah. Okay. So request comes in, triage agent gets the request and decides, okay, do I have this case or do I have this case? So that's like the task with triage agent, and he hands over, and that's one of the parts that they try to solve with this framework. It does a handoff to one of the other agents that then can further process the request. So let's connect these two. So user has some issue. It gets the he puts in a request, for example, on the on the airline website. The request goes into the triage agent, and the triage agent decides, okay, is there a lost baggage claim or is there a flight modification? So it's highly simplified, but I think like it's a good showcase. So now the flight modification itself has functions. It can either modify or cancel a flight. This is also dependent on the request. So first, the triage agent hands over the request to the flight modification agent, which then itself decides, okay, based on the request, should I cancel the flight or should I modify the flight? And basically, the flight modification agent does his job and just like hands over back to the triage agent, like, I'm done. I've done my task. And the triage agent itself then communicates back to the user with like done or failure request. So, and that's basically what they do. And this whole swarm thing makes it simple, like really simple, to just create these systems. And you just make a function transfer to agent B for handling the transfer. And I'm totally honest, like it puts away like so many headaches you have. For example, by default, it's using GPT-4o. Of course, it's an OpenAI library. So you don't have to care about if you don't want to use any other agent. One thing I learned, by the way, if you want to use O1 with its advanced planning capabilities, you have to put it into a function call. It does not work in an agent with function calls. It's just for you. So you can't say like this one agent uses the O1 models because they don't have function calling yet. Honestly, I didn't try to just simply like put away the functions, but it doesn't make any sense because you want to do handoff or actually deliver results, right? So yeah. Okay, so that's Swarm. We have a multi-agent system. We already had stuff. Crew AI, AutoGen. I think there was a third one, but yeah. But this one makes it really easy to get in, and they don't have a lot of stuff in there yet. It's experimental. It's new. Might grow. But would I suggest someone to go into that and use it? Definitely. It's really, really, really helpful. Yeah. So that's what the whole Swarms thing is. Multi-agent framework. What an agent is, it's basically AI with some level of agency. Okay. Now let me quickly check how we. Yeah. So what I did first today was I tried to build such a system, and what I built was basically the first attempt on an engineering team. This had basically like first Swarm project, simple engineering team. So what this simple engineering team was able to do was pretty cool, because my goal was first hand over a request for an app. Second, let the swarm do its own research. 3, let the swarm create files. And let the swarm test the files. So, and 5 was just deliver execution instructions. So, what we were able to do here was really cool, because I wanted something to resemble an engineer, and I tried to start as simple as I can, but with some like magic already in there. So I first also I think we can copy this. I also had the same system. I had a user putting in a request, and I had then the triage from, I think I called them project manager. I had the project manager deciding what to do. Project manager had the access to four agents, which were the research agent, the engineer agent, and the test agent. I would technically be a test engineer. So these were basically my 3 agents. And these agents had the following functions they could access. This was like improve search query, and generate search with perplexity. So instead of going with any like web crawling or something, I said, okay, let's just take the Perplexity API and we just make a search with that. We get some search results back, just text, and we give this search results back to the project manager, and the project manager then gives the engineer basically, hey, this is a topic, this is what we found on it. Please make us the app that we wished for. So why did I do this? First of all, it makes stuff easy, because we don't need to describe like a whole app. Because, for example, if you have something like a to-do app and you don't have all your functions clear, or you might think like, what can I add there? What can I do? You would do the research too, right? And that's basically that's the idea. You handed like a simple request, and the triage agent, by the way, it's also like after he gets the research and he does not know like what actually to do with it. For example, for my to-do app, like he found stuff like the research handed over like AI features and stuff. So like really like basically some kind of futuristic concept, let's say that. And the triage agent was like, hey, I have the research. It's in this research text file, could you please check it and say like what exactly you want in this app? And I was just like, do what you want. And it did what it wanted, and handed it over to the engineer. The engineer was creating like, I said I want to have a HTML file and then a JavaScript file, and JavaScript for actual for the actual to-do list. And it went ahead, created the files, said it was done, handed it back to the triage agent, and then this one handed over to the test engineer. And the test engineer, that was really interesting, because what the test engineer did was it had different functions, one of which were functions that it could use, one of which was execute Python code. But it was JavaScript code and HTML code, right? So he wasn't able to execute any Python code. And then the test engineer just on itself decided, okay, then I create a test file in JavaScript. And then he created his own JavaScript test file. He wasn't able to execute it because does not have that much autonomy. But he was giving back the instructions on how to use this and how to test it. So I could do the test myself. And they were right. So everything, like, it was a pretty simple example, what they created, like, especially if you think like the research was really complex and what they built was kind of dumb. But it worked, and that was what got me excited. And I can even show you that. How can I? Oh yeah, this is one. That's the to-do list. New task. Add task. I can click on it and then it's done. Can click on it, it's undone, and can delete it. So as simple as a to-do list can get. And this was done by the agent all by itself. I know it's not that impressive, but it's only a really, really like first steps examples. And I learned a lot already along the way. When I started this, I was really, let's also write this down. Things I learned. So, lessons learned. First lesson, like basically always with AI, forget your old thinking. What do I mean by that? So, actually, I had a first version, and I built. By the way, I built everything with AI. I handed over the right documents to the AI and was like, "Hey, these are the examples. These are the codes. These are the docs. Please create the stuff." And after some fiddling around, we got there. And I was like, "Okay, AI created something." I went in there and I was like, "Huh. You did not really use the Swarm framework." And what the development AI, like the AI coding assistant did, it created its own Swarm implementation, which I found kind of funny. And I like first I didn't. I have to be honest. I wasn't looking that thoroughly into it, which I should have had. That's on me. But I was like, okay, maybe it's like some idea he has. But like, and after a while, I was like, if I look at the Swarm examples and I look at what you've done, like that's not matching up. And I was like, okay, it built its own Swarm implementation. It got the idea, but the implementation was, of course, far too like far away from what I wanted to do. So I then got back, threw in some more examples, and then it actually started working pretty well. So as always, context is king. You have to actually do it. So forget your old thinking. One other thing it does and besides like creating its own version of the framework. Well, another thing it did, it was even when it was using the framework, it still was kind of linear. So forget linear problem solving. Because this agent framework is not linear, of course, the triage agent has some way to handle stuff, and you have to put it in the prompt of the triage agent, because in the end, every one of these agents, triage, it's like just like own prompts and own personas, basically, which this is built of. Like everything's like it's just a prompting system with a lot of agency, because it's not only deciding on which function to call, but also which other agent to call, and it goes around and around in circles until it has a result which seems fit to the request, and then it gets back. By the way, you can also limit the turns it makes. And so the linear approach would say, okay, I do triage, I do research, I do engineer, I do test. And that would be a linear process. But what we instead did, and that was where I really, I still need to forget all I learned the last 14 years doing business software or software in general, is like now we have triage, goes to research agent loops and goes back to triage. Triage then takes that, either asks me for clarification like it did, or it goes back to pass this on to the engineering agent. This works in a loop until it's ready or thinks it's ready. Goes back to the triage agent. It goes to the test engineer, and this one does its stuff. So, like in general, this was a linear process, but it had a controlling instance about which was managing this. And sometimes it's one controlling instance, but you can also have different instances like controlling each other. The more complex the system gets, and you basically build out virtual, not virtual, but digital teams of AI agents, which then are together solving a task. And why is this important? Let's narrow down your agent. First of all, forces you into breaking down. I forgot the English word. Responsibilities. Jesus Christ! Oh, that was something. Forces you to breaking down responsibilities, and it reduces errors of the atomic parts. Parts of the system. With function calling, as with everything, you hand over functions and their meaning and the parameters into the prompt, and the AI gives back the contents of that of these parameters. So then you go ahead and of course, the more functions you have, the more you bloat your context. And that's the cool thing with these agent frameworks. You have a lot of smaller sub responsibilities, basically, or atomic responsibilities. I like that. I'll write it down. Responsibility. Jesus Christ. This is not right. have to get my grammar right and my vocabulary. Sorry for that. Okay, we have atomic responsibilities. And that's really cool because then every agent does his job, saves the job to the overall state or to a file. So I work with files in my case. And then the triage agent goes to the next one. And also the triage agent itself is more like a routing system, right? So it's not doing a lot of logical work. It's just looking at the current state and deciding whom to call next for help. And yeah, like I said, this is like making it really, really interesting and really, really cool. And yeah. So I think now we get this. We got our to-do list app, and we learned that we have to forget the linear thinking approach, and we have to forget, and we have to narrow down our agents to have atomic responsibilities and functions with, like, also the functions you call have to have one simple task, not simple, but one precise task. Therefore, like if you have a function that does several things, you might get into problems. Sometimes it's not avoidable, but sometimes, but yeah. Okay, so did we learn anything else? I think these were like the first real learnings from actually using it. One third thing is more like a concept I would love to apply now, which we already talked about yesterday, is create a plan, or like let the system create a plan. So I think I said it last week, but O1 from OpenAI, with its new like reasoning focused training, has a lot of potential in terms of planning out stuff. And I use it meanwhile like all the time, every few days at least, sometimes even every day, to come up with some idea or something and just throw it in and say, like, plan it out. Like, these are the topics. Maybe sometimes I already have written some offer or quote or something, and I throw it in there, like, plan this out. And it's really, really good and precise with what it comes up with. Like, I did not specify target audiences, but I just handed over content, and it came up with basically exactly the target audiences we needed just by itself. And I had this in several points, so I don't think it was just pure luck. Will it be always right? Of course not. But it has a lot of potential. So what I now plan to do for the next step, I would love to have the triage agent hand him over. Just move them here. I want the triage agent to hand over planning agent. To hand over the plan, the topic, the research, whatever, to the planning agent. The planning agent just comes up with a plan. So the triage agent says, like, hey, that's the request. Maybe do the research first or not completely done with thinking about that. But yeah, handing to the planning agent. The planning agent then creates some form of database. TaskDB. Let's just call it TaskDB. So it makes a plan and creates tasks. These tasks can either be forwarded to agents, or let's make it like this, or they can be forwarded to users. And the whole system might wait until a task, until you have a blocking task that has to be done by the user, or has to the user has to add some information, some images, like you want to do a marketing campaign and you need some logos because you don't have access to them inside your agent system, inside your swarm. And then you go ahead, create a task for the user, and the user has to fulfill the task. Otherwise, it's blocking the system from going on further, which is kind of a real, like, sophisticated implementation of human in the loop, right? And the triage agent would maybe even hand over like, hey, we have blocking tasks, please answer these questions, for example. So we have now the option to first go ahead, take the request, maybe do some research, but then we create a plan. And the user has also the ability to say, okay, please stop now working. We first want to revise the plan. And then I can, again, have some even completely different swarm, right? Where I say, okay, we now have the swarm of task revisions. I think it's which then has a function which gets tasks and hands them over to different agents. For example, discussion agent, where you go ahead and discuss stuff with the user. Like one task out of the whole task system, one task we just need to discuss further, maybe break down this task. So the discussion agent would give maybe back discussion results, which then themselves would be handed over to an revision agent that breaks up the task, creates a new one, deletes others, checks the task with the whole system maybe. And that's how, like, this is in and of itself, it's a completely different swarm. And that's okay, and that's cool. So you have the option to combine different swarms and systems in what they do and what they are allowed to do or able to do. And this, the further you get to this, and the further you build up the system and try to make stuff like dynamic, like I don't say like we only do task, we only do like 5 tasks in the task DB, or we don't do tasks at all. We do research and then we execute stuff. No, we say, okay, always have this general idea of a project, of a session, where in this session we create something we can work on. In contrast to having something that we simply go ahead and just we simply go ahead and just say, hey, this is the context, please give me the answer, right? So now you create systems, you create abilities, you create functions, you create tools, and you orchestrate them in a system which is able to make its own decisions inside their guardrails and guidelines. And that's something we definitely have to take on the lessons learned stuff, because I'll be totally honest, it was a bit scary for me to know that the system has created a file which I was not aware of, basically. So yeah, it just created the JavaScript test file, which it's totally was intended for, but still kind of felt weird that some random AI function call is now creating files on my system, which could contain anything, let's be honest, right? So, and at a further point, I would love to hand over execution rights too, right? So, yeah, like you get like this is like keep safety in mind. Like really keep safety in mind. It's really important. Yeah. Let's clarify this. Like, keep guardrails. You could even do like a security agent, for example, right? So security agent, like just checking every step that's going to be executed, right? Like as soon as I want to create a file, security agent checks for vulnerabilities. Jesus Christ. And does this basically every time that we have a critical process, like executing a file without user input, right? If you produce text, if you, for example, have something that automatically creates LinkedIn postings and posts them, or Twitter or whatever, even if you have like an audio voice recording which you hand over beforehand, you definitely have to keep in mind to guard whatever you do, which might have consequences outside the system, right? And for that, like as soon as I get it, give it execution rights. I'll most definitely will not let this run on my machine, but like spin up a Linux Linux container or something. So keep guardrails, deploy security agent, agents, and define critical processes beforehand. So the solution to stuff being a critical process is not to just not do it, but make a contingency plan, think this through basically, and yeah. So yeah, there you have it. Like this is basically my first attempt on using swarms and creating AI agent systems. I also did not work as much with AI agent systems yet, but the more I work with it, the more I really tend to love the system. What are the downsides? One of it will be cost, because like I said, like we have agent systems, they iterating, they're going over everything. So you definitely have more executions than you would normally have. Well, that's to be expected, right? You also want to have more complex and better results, autonomous behaviors, agency that just needs more back and forth, which costs you more token, which costs you more money. I think through all the testing, and a lot of it, and I've had some states of the whole program where it looped a lot. So definitely set the limits for the turns. I think I spent $10 or something for like the whole day of testing and doing and trying. Depending on which models you use, but Cloud 3.5 Sonnet and also OpenAI's 4.0 model, things get pretty cheap, even for the really good models. So, and I think you can even use, for example, NVIDIA's new Nemotron model based on Llama 70 billion. Which performs outstanding and is a 70 billion parameter model. I could let this run on my machine. And by the way, that's something I want to do in the future. If I have more sophisticated systems, which I would love to just have them running without, even without internet access, maybe. I could do this on a local machine with Ollama, and just let it work its magic, basically. That's that for the moment. already got like an hour minus the 5 minutes I was late. So what do we have on our list? So yeah, current state and demo, and some conclusions, rework last week's concept. Okay, let's go back to last week's concept and see where this would apply now. So we had this function called pipeline and stuff. So what I actually would love to do is throw this away, except of the interface stuff maybe, and definitely throw this away because that's actually that was bullshit. Like I thought, okay, we have functions and we have categories, and then we need need to combine like which category has which function. But you will always run into problems with that, so that was like just a dumb idea. In general, what I would do, I would basically do this, and try to go over planning. Like the first step would be to have a request, create a plan, and put it into the database. So and then have the options to iterate on it. So that would be like the first step. And then I would gradually add stuff, that I want to automate. For example, because thing is, I have often stuff where I can't use my hands because like I just can't because I'm driving, for example. But I can use my voice and I can use my mind, right? So when I saw the real-time voice agent, I was like, oh man, I have to get this into my life with my functions, with the stuff that I need, because every time I use OpenAI, I'm in ChatGPT, right? So I'm limited by what ChatGPT can do. And right now I'm limited by my borders because they are not releasing stuff in Europe when they released it in the US or Canada or basically everywhere else, because we have the best regulation, at least. We don't have anything else. Another topic. And basically that's where I'm at with that. I would love to have the voice assistant communicating or being basically the triage agent. So the voice assistant then calls all the other agents and stuff. So that was like the best idea I had. Otherwise, you had like a voice interface, which then has to communicate to the agent and stuff. So would be better if the triage agent or the project manager is the one talking to you, right? Because if you have a request in a company, you build a bigger project, or you also like talk to the project manager and not to all the agents like beneath. That's why you have a manager in the first place, right? And also the project manager is talking to the customer, like to have another example. And it would be the same here. So it would make sense if the voice of the project manager is an actual voice, or at least one of the 6 we have access to. Yeah. So that's what I would love to do for the project going forward, and definitely use the swarm approach. I'm not sure. I haven't tested if the swarms are like the swarm library already works with the voice API, because you need a WebSocket connection to that. So might not even be possible. How I thought about this, it's actually not possible. But that's some technicality. It's not meant for this stream here. Okay, so there we have it. I'm not sure if I want to hit you with more theory, but let's check this live. There we have it. I'm not sure if I want to. Okay. Good. So I think we keep it with that. But now, like I said, I would love to have a shorter stream today. I'll see what I can come up with for next week. if we do a stream next week, that is. Maybe we do next week on Wednesday, because me and my wife have actually our birthday next week. So streaming on my wife's birthday wouldn't be the best, I think. And yeah, I'll try to prepare some more agent stuff. I think we will go back to one of our concepts, which was the financial AI, and yeah, try to make some leaps in there. And maybe like for all of you who still with me, I would love to talk about one special concept which I would love to. I'm not even sure if I can call it that, but I would love to have a God agent. And this God agent, let's make him blue. I think it's yeah. Yeah. I would love to have a God agent which has the ability to create new function, or like new functions, and to create new tools. Create new agents and create new functions and combine them. So what we can do already now is update files. And I'm not sure how this is like technically, if we already have a running Python application, if I can change files in a running system. And I also would do this like only with user consent, basically. Because I have some concerns. Strict concept. So yeah, let's also put it like a bit more down here. So yeah, that's one. Just like I would love this to be like not only for the system, but also for me interacting with the system. So right now, if I want a new functionality or a new agent, I have to go in there and create it. I'd rather take all the other stuff. Like I can research, I can plan, I can create files, and I can test them and even execute code. So that's already there. Why can't I create new files which have new agents, which have new tools, right? And why? Because the idea would be to say, okay, now activate. Let's not call it God mode. Like let's call it admin mode. And I liked God mode. So I could say, like, me interacting with the system could say, hey, project manager, like, now please let's activate God mode. And in God mode, we switch to another project manager, we switch to the product manager, and then we change our product, right? And I would love this to work, because then I can, like, for example, I'm sitting in the car, and I'm now like worked through tasks, the problem, and I suddenly recognize, like, okay, now I need a web crawler. How would it be nice if we can just say, by the way, please create a new file which you call webcrawler agent.python. Take into consideration the agent template. We could maybe provide an agent template, and please, create that agent and add it to the capabilities of the project manager. So added the file projectmanager.python. And now I'm actually able to create new functions on the fly to improve on the system, to then go back to the system, like, and God mode now, and then work with the system. this is half this. That's a really abstract concept. Like, let's make it like this. Like this, it's really far off, because just thinking about the current state of the current LLMs, like, tend to be good at abstracting what that actually means. Well. We are that this will be chaos. For example, you go into God mode, it changes files and creates other garbage. You go back from God mode and nothing works, and then you're stuck. Because fixing that with voice without maybe even the option to look at it, good luck. So yeah, there has to be some revisions. Maybe if you break it, you can revise it to the previous state or something. Really far off concept, but also really tempting. Maybe something we do during Christmas with my brother or something. Okay. I would close it with that. So thank you very much for everyone who was listening. I hope you learned a bit. I hope everyone who's watching the real life gets some insights. And really looking forward to keep working with you all. And until then, see you next time.